So North Carolina ABC and all things liquor have been in the news a lot recently, so I figured I'd hop on and talk about all that's been going on. If you're new here, hi, I'm Joe from the Solvent Speakeasy. Welcome in. If you're enjoying the content, would appreciate you subscribing to the channel. Leave a like and comment down below. How are things done in your state? Let's get into it. So in case you're not aware, a quick recap of how North Carolina works with liquor. We are a control state, and all of the liquor, including our beloved bourbon, gets shipped to the main warehouse in Raleigh, which is the capital. And then from there, it gets distributed out to the 171 different counties that serve alcohol. And obviously, it's done by size. So here in Mecklenburg or Charlotte, we get way more than Boone would get up in the mountains. So, of course, everything's price controlled. So you're going to pay $150 plus tax for your BTAC if you're lucky enough to get it. But then there is that counterpoint where it's hard to get unless you know how the county works. You camp out, get lucky in a lottery, or just lucky in a random drop. So when you get stuff, it is the correct price, but it can be hard to get. So the first piece of news that you might have heard of before, because it's kind of made national news, it's been around bourbon social media, is the secondary bust that happened here in Met County, where I believe 28 citations went out to various people for selling stuff on the secondary market. Now, of course, you had your typical stuff, BTAC, Pappy, but it also included lower end stuff like Weller 107, lower EH Taylors, some Japanese, and Angel's Envy, including the infamous Angel's Envy 15 year, which of course is not a real thing. They probably meant the 15th anniversary. But yeah, so overall, like y'all know, I love hate relationship with secondary. I get it, right? Our hobby has a secondary market just like baseball cards or shoes or fill in the blank there. And of course, those are perfectly legal, as scummy as they may be, especially the Pokemon cards recently. But it is kind of crazy that the alcohol stuff is illegal. Um, I get it, right? It's the only way for a lot of people to get certain bottles. It's the only way for majority of people to get vintage bottles, right? Unless you go to the few places in this country that are able to sell them legally, most notably Neat in Kentucky. And I believe there's a DC store too that's able to sell Dusties. Correct me if I'm wrong there. But obviously the secondary market has its bad eggs and stuff like that. But I just don't see this small operation that they spent so much money on to really stop a few $1,000s worth of sales. It's not going to deter people. If anything, these secondary groups are going to tighten their security. You're going to have to have people vouch for you to get in, have references when you buy or sell. It's not going to do. You would have had to citate thousands and thousands of people for it to even deter, and they're not going to be able to get into the national groups and do anything there, I don't think either. So I don't know. It's kind of weird that they went through all that effort just for 28 citations, not even arrests. And I know they try to say, oh, they're trying to stop counterfeit. I mean, I can't think of any recent stories on the secondary market of counterfeit that I've heard of. You mostly hear about those with the websites that have, we got Pappy for $100. That's probably Jim Beam refilled into a Pappy bottle, right? Those are the ones you got to watch out for. I don't know. What are y'all's thoughts on that whole thing? I think it's a little silly. I get it. It's technically illegal, and that's what the NCALE is for. But there are way bigger problems than a couple guys selling some bottles. And then the next piece of news, a little less on the radar of a lot of people, but there is a renewed push to try to get North Carolina to loosen some of the antiquated liquor laws we've had for almost 90 years, pretty much since Prohibition. Like we can't sell on Sundays. It has to all be bought from an ABC store run by the state and the county. We have the second highest liquor tax in the nation, and they're trying to change things. And I agree. There are some changes that need to be made. And kind of the five, I'm reading off their website here. This is freeourspiritsnc.com. And I'll put this up on the screen as well. But their five big things are to lower taxes, consumer convenience, better distribution, end corruption, and decentralize and modernize. So I mean, just a quick few points. I mean, customer convenience, they want to allow everywhere to be able to sell. So your Total Wine, your Costco, your grocery store, stuff like that, where most of the country does that already. I think that would be great. So I don't have to go to an ABC store like, oh, I'm going to get my groceries, and maybe they have something fun bourbon wise. Better distribution. I mean, there can always be better distribution, of course, and better kind of and off of that, better inventory management. Because here in Mecklenburg County, the warehouse, from what I've been told, is a mess. And I was in a store last week. They had an Elijah Craig barrel pick from 2023 on the shelves. Like that was 3 years ago. Come on, guys. They had they're behind 2 or 3 batches on Elijah Craig barrel proofs. There were other picks that have been in there for 2, 3, 4 years. So the inventory system definitely needs to be better as well. In addition to the distribution, of course, I always advocate for lower taxes. Thumbs up there. And corruption. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of it in North Carolina. Backdoor deals. People who know the manager getting favorable treatment, or getting tips, getting bottles, stuff like that. It's known that most counties it happens, and so the corruption definitely, that would be great to go away, of course, and then to centralize and modernize. And that's kind of where I think the best system to go to is Virginia, how they did it. Obviously, Virginia was a hot mess a few years ago, but it seems like they cleaned it up. Everything is state run. Obviously, each county has their stores, but the state determines the lottery. The state determines the drops and stuff like that. I know initially I was like, oh, Ohio seems cool, but a lot of people who moved from Ohio have told me we don't want that. I don't think I want full private. I know people do. I don't think that'll ever happen in our lifetime because there's just so much money involved with the government officials. They're not going to want to go full private. I think maybe my best compromise is to go the Virginia route. It's state controlled still. It's centralized, and we can do it that way. So yeah, just a lot going on with North Carolina, ABC, stuff like that right now. Let me know in the comments what you think about the North Carolina stuff, what you would do to change it, and how things are in your state. Hope you all have a great week. Cheers, all.